Hey everyone, Mike here, and in this clip we're having side by side the iPhone 5S and the Sony Xperia Z2. Rather different devices, but both flagships in their camps, so if you want to see how they fare against each other, stay with me for the next few minutes. There are quite a few major differences between these two smartphones, but the most striking one is perhaps the size gap. On one hand we have the compact and light iPhone 5S, which feels Lilliputian next to the big Xperia Z2. And that's because the iPhone 5S sports a 4-inch screen, while on the Z2 there's a 5.2-inch display. That comes with pros and cons for each side. The iPhone 5S is small and can be easily used with a single hand, but for many its screen is minuscule for everyday use. The Z2 is larger and heavier, but reading, watching movies or playing games on its bigger screen is a delight. And that's why these two phones address different types of technology lovers. Both feel premium though, and at least in my opinion, both are stunningly beautiful. We have the silver grey version of the iPhone here, with its aluminum case and tapered straight edges, and the purple version of the Xperia Z2, with a metallic frame squeezed between two sheets of glass. The two phones are also rather fragile as well. Sony's Xperia Z2 is IP certified, or in other words dust and water resistant, like the previous Zs before. That might be useful for some of you, but requires all the ports to be covered by plastic caps, which makes them more difficult to access. It also has a negative impact on the speakers and overall call quality. Personally, I find little use for a waterproof phone like this one, and I would have preferred a more conservative approach or a more ruggedized body, but that's just me. Bottom point though, take good care of these phones and don't drop them. Design aside, there's the classic iOS versus Android debate when picking between these two. There's iOS 7 on the iPhone 5S and Android 4.4 KitKat on the Xperia Z2, with all their latest features and the best each ecosystem has to offer right now. I'm not getting in depth here, I did compare the two OSs in a previous clip. There's however one thing I have to say. Android has come a long way and it is right now fast, beautiful and gifted with all sorts of functions. And although I'm an iPhone 5S user and have been getting along fine with most of the changes brought by iOS 7, I do believe the Sony Xperia Z2 with Android 4.4 KitKat is a more versatile option for everyday use. But that's only one aspect of this comparison and clearly not enough for someone to pick between these two devices. The cameras are also do or dies on top devices like this one. There's an 8-megapixel shooter on the iPhone 5S with a simpler and rather limited camera interface. But despite that, it is all around one of the best cameras you'll find on a smartphone these days. The Xperia Z2's camera looks impressive on paper, 20.7 megapixels, large sensor, plenty of features and shooting modes. In practice, the Z2 takes excellent videos, especially since it can shoot 4K clips as well, alongside the slow mode also available on the iPhone. It also takes good pics in proper light, but still struggles in low light, much like the Xperia Z1 before, both when using the Smart Auto or the manual modes. It fails to focus properly quite often, and when it does focus, the resulting images are somewhat mushy, lacking sharpness and details. The iPhone on the other hand delivers clear pics in similar conditions, although somewhat grainy, but I'd rather have that than what's coming out of the Z2. Anyway, don't take my word on it, see the pics in the written comparison for more details, I've added the link in the description. Moving on, we have the batteries to mention. Again, on paper, the iPhone trails the Xperia, which packs a battery twice as big. In practice, both phones can get you through the day with medium to heavy use, and both can go for at least 2 days with light use. The Xperia will last longer than the iPhone 5S though, in most cases, especially if you take good use of its power-saving options, but the iPhone trails it closely. Anyway, with the major aspects aside, here are some of the other things worth mentioning. We'll start with the extras offered by the Xperia Z2. The notification LED, the microSD storage expansion slot, the stereo speakers flanking the screen, the extra connectivity options, the ability to use the screen with gloves on, or the ability to double tap the screen to wake up the device. The iPhone lacks all this, but does pack the dual LED flash, great for taking more natural looking colors in poor light, and its Touch ID fingerprint reader. Also, the iPhone 5S has a clearer and louder earpiece, which makes it better suited for taking and receiving calls. And last but not least, the tiny screen on the iPhone 5S is brighter, offers better contrast and paints more natural looking colors than the large screen on the Xperia Z2. On top of those, I could also mention the hardware differences between the two. There's the Qualcomm 800 platform on the Xperia and Apple's A7 chip on the iPhone, with its 64-bit architecture. I don't care much about specs though, but I do care about speed and performances. And like I said above, the Xperia Z2 is snappier and smoother than the iPhone 5S is these days, in most cases. But that's more due to the software on the two than the hardware. At the end of the day though, one question remains. Which side offers more for the money? A simple question with a complicated answer. Depends on what you want, either a compact, simple phone that works well out of the box and doesn't have any major flaws, but is expensive, or a larger phone with a bigger screen, snappy performances, plenty of features and a few small quirks. A phone that's cheaper than the iPhone, by the way, don't forget about that. Regardless, both are excellent devices, and the Xperia Z2, as the new kid in town, is a tougher competitor for the flagship iPhone than any of the other Zs were before, and that's good news for Sony. With that in mind, it's time to end this video. Let me know what you think about these two devices in the comments below, and make sure to share this clip around and hit that thumbs up button if you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.